When Vladimir Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine in 2022, he expected a lightning-fast victory. Russian troops would storm across the border, seize Kyiv, and install a pro-Russian government within a week. It was supposed to be a show of power, a moment that would prove Russia's strength and cement Putin's legacy as the man who rebuilt the Russian Empire. But 3 years later, that plan has completely collapsed. What was meant to be a short, glorious war has become a long and exhausting disaster. The conflict has exposed deep cracks in Putin's leadership, his military, and his economy. What was supposed to make Russia stronger is now tearing it apart. From the start, Putin's plan was based on arrogance and poor judgment. He believed Ukraine would fall quickly, assuming its people would surrender and that Western nations would stay out of the fight. Instead, Ukraine fought back fiercely. Ordinary citizens took up arms, and the military defended every inch of their land. Western countries, especially the United States and European allies, rushed to help Ukraine by sending weapons, intelligence, and aid. Within weeks, Putin's dream of a quick takeover was destroyed. His army became trapped in fierce battles, supply lines broke down, and morale among Russian troops collapsed. What he thought would last a week has turned into years of failure and loss. After failing to capture Kyiv, Putin changed tactics. He decided to wear Ukraine down through a long war of attrition, believing Russia's larger army and resources would eventually force Ukraine to surrender. But this strategy has failed too. According to the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense, Russia's territorial gains in 2025 have been small and shrinking. In January, Russian forces captured about 126 square miles of land. By March, only 55. These tiny advances came at enormous cost. John Foreman, a former British defense attaché to Moscow and Kyiv, called Russia's invasion a strategic catastrophe. Russia has lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers and billions of dollars while gaining little in return. Instead of showing power, the war has revealed weakness. In the summer of 2025, Putin tried again with a massive offensive. He aimed to capture the Ukrainian cities of Sumy and Pokrovsk to secure a strategic advantage. He sent tens of thousands of soldiers and huge amounts of equipment into the fight. But after months of combat, Russia failed again. By September, Russian troops had gained only about 100 square miles of land, less than half of what they gained earlier in the year. Independent monitors confirmed that Russia's overall progress was declining, not improving. By this point, Russia had lost more than 1 million soldiers since the invasion began, including nearly 300,000 in 2025 alone. Families across Russia are paying the price for Putin's ambition. For many, the war has taken their sons, husbands, and fathers, leaving behind grief and anger. Despite the staggering losses, Putin refuses to stop. His political goal remains the same: to control Ukraine completely. Even as the war drags on, he has shown no interest in peace. In August 2025, Putin met former U.S. President Donald Trump in Alaska for what was supposed to be a peace discussion. Russian state media celebrated the meeting as a success, but Western officials described it as a waste of time. Putin made no serious offers, and days later his army resumed missile strikes on Ukraine. Ironically, the meeting only made things worse for him. Instead of convincing Trump to reduce aid to Ukraine, Putin pushed him to increase it. Trump began talking about sending long-range Tomahawk missiles, capable of hitting targets deep inside Russia. What Putin thought would be a diplomatic win turned into another embarrassing defeat. As the war continued to fail, Putin expanded his aggression beyond Ukraine's borders. In 2025, Russian drones entered Polish airspace, and fighter jets violated Estonia's skies. Cyber attacks traced to Moscow targeted networks in Germany, Denmark, and Norway. Putin's goal was to frighten Europe into reducing support for Ukraine. But his plan backfired once again. Instead of creating division, he united Europe. NATO countries strengthened their cooperation, while the European Union increased aid to Ukraine. Putin's strategy of fear has only made his enemies stronger and Russia more isolated. What was meant to intimidate Europe has instead rallied it against him. While the fighting continues abroad, Russia's economy is falling apart at home. Western sanctions have crippled trade and blocked Russia from global markets. Ukraine's drone strikes have destroyed nearly 40% of Russia's oil refineries, leading to major fuel shortages. Gas prices have skyrocketed, and rationing has become common in many cities. Inflation is rising sharply, and everyday Russians are struggling to afford food and basic goods. According to the Financial Times, the United States has been helping Ukraine with intelligence for precision strikes, making these attacks even more effective. Each one deepens Russia's economic wounds. Although Russia still sells oil to China and India, Those profits are shrinking. Foreman told Times Radio that Russia faces severe economic difficulties. The war that was supposed to make Russia rich and powerful is bankrupting it instead. Meanwhile, Europe is striking back financially. European leaders are discussing whether to use about 140 billion euros in frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine's recovery and defense. If the plan moves forward, it will strip Russia of one of its few remaining financial safety nets. It would also symbolize just how much Putin has lost. The same nations he tried to divide are now united, using his own country's money against him. Far from weakening Europe, Putin's war has made it more determined and cohesive than ever. Another growing problem for Russia is Putin himself. At 73, he has ruled for more than 2 decades and has no clear successor. His entire government depends on his personal control. Without him, there is no one ready to take his place. Analysts warn that when Putin dies or loses power, Russia could fall into chaos as rival factions fight for control. Even Putin seems aware of this danger. During a meeting with China's President Xi Jinping, he made a strange remark about achieving immortality through organ transplants, a sign of his fear of losing power. Instead of preparing Russia for the future, Putin clings to control, leaving the country's stability in question. The deeper the war goes, the more it becomes clear that Putin's failures are not just military or political, they are personal. His decisions have weakened Russia's reputation, damaged its economy, and isolated it internationally. Millions of Russian citizens now live under heavy censorship, economic hardship, and fear of conscription. Many know the truth, but stay silent to avoid punishment. What began as a patriotic mission has turned into a national crisis. Putin began this war believing he could restore Russia's greatness and rewrite history, but instead of rebuilding an empire, he is overseeing its decline. His army is losing ground, his economy is collapsing, and his global influence is fading. Each new decision seems to make things worse. He wanted to be remembered as the man who made Russia powerful again, but history is likely to remember him as the leader who destroyed his country from within. In the end, Putin's greatest enemy may not be Ukraine. It is his own pride. His refusal to admit mistakes or change direction has locked Russia into a path of destruction. The war that was meant to make Russia strong has instead revealed how fragile it truly is. Every new failure brings Russia closer to political, economic, and social collapse. Putin once promised to make his country great again, but now it is his failures in Ukraine that are ripping Russia apart.